morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whomever you are, whoever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are with us this morning for the first time, we are glad you are here. I'm Reverend Sharon Wiley, Chalice's minister. Our worship musician this morning is Justin Gray, and our song leader is Tom Karlstrom. Welcome to this online worship service. If you are new to online worship, let me orient you just a little bit. Whether you have a microphone on your computer or a camera, doesn't matter during this time together. You are muted and invisible, and you cannot unmute yourself or make yourself visible. So you don't need to worry that anyone can hear what you're saying or see what you're doing. We hope you're relaxed and comfortable, and we're all here together. If you get a notice that pops up during the service that says internet unstable, that means that your internet is unstable. If that happens, you might want to check if you have other devices using Wi-Fi where you are. And if you turn those off, like putting your phone on airplane mode, your tablet on airplane mode, whatever you're not using for worship, that can help stabilize the connection. On your menu, your Zoom menu, you have a button that says chat. This is where chat is where we talk to each other during the service. You'll see that people are saying hello from where they are around the county and even the country. We usually have people from other states with us on Sunday morning these days. So some of congregants love the chat function and use it quite a bit throughout the service, which you are welcome and at times explicitly invited to do. And some of you don't like the chat box and find it distracting. You can control whether the chat box is open or closed. So you just click on your menu where it says chat, and if your chat is open, that will close it. And if it's closed, that will open it. So you can be in control of that. For those of you who do like to use the chat, be sure you use that little blue menu button to select all panelists and attendees. I am the only panelist, and if you send me messages during the service, I won't always see them because I'm busy doing other things. But panelists and attendees means that we can all see what everybody's posting. So imagine me standing at the door of our little chapel, welcoming you on Sunday morning, giving you a hug. So give yourself a hug. And if you are in a space with other people, I invite you to hug them too, if that feels comfortable. We need all the touch we can get in these times of separation and isolation. Now, I want to especially welcome those of you who are newcomers at Chalice. In addition to this online worship, I want you to know that many of our groups and activities continue to happen online as well. Activities like our women's book club, men's breakfast group, support groups, religious education for children, all these and more happen online. You do not need to be a member to participate in our groups and activities. They are open to everyone who is on our email list. So if you are new to Chalice and would like to learn more about these activities and get onto our email list, you are invited to stay in this Zoom room after the service ends for our newcomer chat. So now as our service is about to begin, I invite you to take a breath and know that we're taking a breath together. Our service today reflects on our connections to the patterns in nature. Our call to worship comes from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Because the tides are rising, so must we. Rise to this moment, rise to this day, rise to this life, this place in the web that is yours and ours. Rise, because the earth remains our only home, and we, fellow travelers, its only hope for healing, wholeness, salvation. Rise before the mystery, before the Big Bang that started it all, that this infinite universe still takes notice of us, still feels the in and out of our breath, still holds us, connects us. Rise, or surrender with gratitude for this beauty, this chance to be a part of it all, to give back, to weave life, past, present, future, everywhere, always as one. Let us worship together. Please join in singing.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden soft play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
We'll start our service by sharing our sorrows, and I want to name, for many of us, for some reason, well, for specific reasons, this week felt hard. I think that along with the regular stresses we're carrying, that the ongoing news of military police combating protesters in Portland and the anticipation of that spreading to other cities has really raised a lot of our anxieties. Of course it does. So I just want to invite you to know that, and to know for many of us that's a shared feeling. And if you're, feeling even more impacted than usual, that's, it makes sense. So as always, let's be gentle with ourselves and gentle with each other. But this is, we have a time in the service for sharing our sorrows. I also invite you to share worries as well. This is a time we share these in our chat box. They aren't spoken out loud, but please feel free to respond to each other in the chat. This is the time for sorrows. We'll share joys a bit later on. We'll listen to some piano music. And if you have a candle in your home that you would like to light for sorrow, this is the time. May our sorrows be lessened. May our burdens be lightened. In sorrow and challenge, may we know ourselves always held and never alone. May we act to extend our warmth to all who are hurting in our wider world. Our story is called You Are Stardust, written by Ellen Kelsey and illustrated by Soyeon Kim. You are stardust. Every tiny atom in your body came from a star that exploded long before you were born. You started life as a single cell. So did all other creatures on planet Earth. Like fish deep in the ocean, you called salt water home. You swam inside the salty sea of your mother's womb. Salt still flows through your veins, your sweat, and your tears. The sea within you is as salty as the ocean. The water swirling in your glass once filled the puddles where dinosaurs drank. From ocean to sky to land and back again, the same water has been quenching thirsts for millions of years. You learn to speak the same way baby birds learn to sing, by chatting with your parents. Ma, 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 tweet, tweet, tweet. Be still. Listen. Like you, the earth breathes. Your breath is alive with the promise of flowers. Each time you blow a kiss to the world, you spread pollen that might grow to be a new plant. Inside your brain, electricity stronger than lightning powers your every thought. You sneeze with the force of a tornado. Wind rockets from your nose quicker than a cheetah sprints. You grow at night when your bones are resting, just like the sheep you count to help you sleep. You may sprout even taller in the spring and summer, just like the plants in your garden. Your hair falls like autumn leaves. You tend to shed the most hair in early autumn and save your thickest growth for the heart of winter. Your body constantly changes. New cells line your stomach every 3 days. You'll replace your skin 100 times by the time you turn 10. Just as forests grow new trees in place of old ones, you grow entirely new skeletons throughout your life. If you were a planet, you'd be a lot like the Earth. Rainforests on land and algae in the oceans are the Earth's lungs. From head to your toes, inside and out, billions of teeny microorganisms live on planet You. You know how it feels to be a good friend, and so do other animals. Bats and sperm whales get their friends to babysit. Elephants remain best buddies for life. You, me, birds flying through the rainforest. We are all connected. We are all nature. We are all stardust. This morning, I invited my dear friend and colleague, Lucy Bunch, to preach for us. She is the Minister for Faith and Justice at the UU Society of Sacramento. I asked her to preach her sermon, Patterns in Nature, for us, to help remind us of the beauty and mystery and lessons that nature has for us. Here she is.
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you. Thank you, Sharon, for inviting me to share a message with you this morning. I want to begin by sharing an image with you. I am drawn to patterns in nature. They give me a powerful sense of awe and a sense of entering into a mystery. They also provide me with or provoke me to want to understand more about their underlying purpose and structure. There's room in the human experience for both the mystery and the knowing. I also believe that patterns in nature can teach us. They can help us to think about new ways for our own systems and our own processes. We are not separate from nature despite several hundred years of human arrogance and belief that we are above nature and in control of nature and our earth. Patterns in nature are mimicked in our own bodies, and we need to engage with nature with humility and respect for the mystery. So for my time with you today, I've chosen 3 areas of discovery in the natural world, areas where art and science and spirituality come together in profound ways. I was inspired by a book called Emergent Strategies by Adrienne Marie Brown. So the sermon today will be in 3 parts. Each part will start with a quote from the book, and then I will explore the science, mystery, and the lessons behind 3 particular patterns in nature. So we're going to start with fractals. Here's the quote from Emergent Strategies. The micro reflects the macro and vice versa. The tiniest, most mundane act reflects the biggest creation we can imagine. Tune into the prevalence of the spiral in the universe. The shape of the prints of our fingertips echoes into geological patterns all the way to the shape of all galaxies. Then notice that the planet is full of fractals. Cauliflowers, ferns, river deltas, veins through our bodies, tributaries, etc., etc. All these are echoes of themselves in the smallest and the largest scales. So these are hens and chicks. Not the botanical name, but what they're called. There's a patch of them growing in my neighbor's yard, and I walk by them every day on my dog walk, always fascinated by how identical they are, but in various sizes. Fractals are repeating patterns of the smaller units that make up the larger whole. The small is a reflection of the large, and vice versa. Mathematicians have been able to develop equations to create fractals and generate fractal patterns. The understanding of fractals has helped make computer simulations more realistic. When you see computer-generated imagery in a movie, fractals have allowed them to be far more realistic. The understanding of fractals has allowed us to have cell phones because they allow the current to move through the phone in a non-linear pattern. If it was linear, there would be no way that all of the energy and movement of the phone could be in such a small space. But with the branching and fractal patterns, it allowed the smaller and smaller bits to be contained in a smaller space. Scientists have discovered that looking at fractals makes us feel good. Looking at them gives us some of the same brainwave patterns that are seen when we listen to music. Our brains recognize this kinship to the natural. Our visual systems is hardwired to understand and appreciate fractals. So what can these fractals teach us? How do they show up in our human systems? One lesson that they teach us is that what we practice on the small scale can reverberate to the large. Fractals show up in human systems in the idea that systemic changes rely on small changes to create the whole. They teach us that fundamental shifts are not derived from large structural shifts in human systems, but on small changes that can make up the larger shifts. I think about political organizing. The Tea Party, which was so prevalent a decade ago, did so well politically because they got elected to school boards all over the country and built from there. Terrorist cells follow this pattern, small groups with a shared vision who act in coordinating ways. Right now, we are seeing protests in cities all over our country. They are organized only in that they share a vision for racial justice. And yet you can see the patterns play out in cities all around the country. The impact of the many small events is very powerful, and we're hoping it will lead to systemic change. The small makes up the large. This idea can work in our own behavior. For example, small acts of kindness every day by many people can build and make a difference in our larger human systems. Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Next, we're going to explore murmurations. Here are the words of Sierra Pickett as quoted in Emergent Strategies. Starling murmuration consists of a flock moving in sync with one another, engaging in clear, consistent communication, and exhibiting collective leadership and deep, deep trust. Each individual bird focuses attention on their 7 closest neighbors, and thus manage a larger flock cohesiveness and synchronicity. Let's look at one together. Who doesn't like synchronicity? Who doesn't like tap dancers in a line, synchronized swimmers? We're all totally awestruck by the bird's ability to manage uncertainty while maintaining consistent consensus. And they accomplish this with the least effort possible when each bird attends to its 7 neighbors. The birds are part of a dynamic system in which the parts combine to make a whole. A system has emergent properties. Emergent being when the cloud shifts and new shapes of the flock come into play. These clouds are never led by a single individual. The Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology has done research on these phenomena. They say, murmurations remind us that nature's beauty can take limitless forms and can shock and inspire us. People mention a feeling of connection that they experience while watching the video. It's as if seeing that synchrony, that seemingly perfect connection between each starling, also reminds us to value our connection to the world around us, for connection can be truly beautiful. So how can humans apply this wisdom? We let these birds teach us how to live with constant change by noticing, by trusting, and by adapting. As they fly, the birds are close, but they're not so close that they can't be aware of their own movement and their own bodies. So they have self-awareness as well as awareness of the birds that are closest to them. They teach us to share the burden of change by cooperating with each other. They teach us to share the control of what happens next. No one bird is in charge. What happened next emerges, and the flock reacts. When I was reflecting on murmurations, I thought about the strategic plan that my congregation developed. We have a wonderful strategic plan that we voted on after a year of engagement and consultation. But the team that put it all together decided not to have a very concrete or specific action plan, or even have concrete or specific timelines, because they wanted to be open to what would emerge from the congregation in the future. They wanted to be open to how we're going to be together. So they gave us options and visions of how we could move forward. But they understood that leadership needed to come from the collective, just like the birds do as they move through the sky. This strategic plan still guides my congregation, even though we are sheltering in place. We have goals and the outline of a destination, but we are moving there together.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
We shared our sorrows just a bit ago. Now it's time for our joys. If you have a joy you would like to share with the community this morning, now is the time to share in the chat box. These won't be spoken out loud, but we'll respond to each other in the chat. We'll listen to some piano music. And if you have a candle in your home that you would like to light for joy, this is the time. May our joys be multiplied. May we act to extend our warmth to all who are rejoicing in our wider world. Chalice is a robust community of people with diverse gifts and interests. It is through our communal sharing of gifts and talents that this community exists. This morning, we have information to share about our women's meditation group.
The Women's Meditation and Buddhist Study Group focuses on mutual support and the practical implementation of Buddhism in order to enrich our daily lives. The first 30 minutes of our meetings consist of a brief check-in by each member. Then we read aloud from our selected book, commenting on and discussing what we've just read. Our meetings finish with 30 minutes of silent meditation. Our readings about Buddhist practice and philosophy are written by contemporary writers and Buddhist teachers and are chosen by group consensus.
Each week, as we begin our time together, we recite some of these traditional Buddhist principles to bring our hearts and minds into the present moment and remind us of our highest aspirations. I vow not to take what is not given and to practice generosity.
My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground on which I stand.
Karma reminds us that we cannot escape the consequences of our actions.
I vow not to engage in false speech, but to speak and listen from the heart.
Everything that I desire and everyone that is dear to me are of the nature to change. I cannot escape the nature of this change.
Death, impermanence, and change are inevitable.
Loving kindness is always welcome.
I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate living to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations.
Life is precious.
I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love.
Practice, present moment, peace.
I am of the nature to have declining health. I cannot escape declining health.
I take refuge in the Sangha, the way of understanding and of love.
May the merits of this practice benefit all beings, and bring peace.
Chalice is not a place. We're a community of people. When you hear about groups like our women's meditation group, then you know this is part of who we are. We are blessed by this gathering of women sharing their commitment to shared spiritual practice with each other and the congregation. The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Joseph Goldstein writes, it's important to understand that generosity is a practice. It's not a single event. It's a quality in our hearts and minds that we can develop and cultivate. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the dollar amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. And once you've done that once, entered your credit card information, you don't need to enter it again for future donations. If your Sunday donation is part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate the word pledge after the dollar amount. And you can make a text donation anytime. It doesn't need to be during the worship service. The phone number will be on screen, and I'll also put it in the chat box. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. May love be the spirit of this church. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
The final pattern in nature that I will share are mycelium. Here is a quote from Emergent Strategies. Many trees that grow from a common root system underground are one being reaching up in many bodies. Oak trees wrap their roots around each other under the earth. Mycelium, the threading that makes up most mushrooms, communicates between trees, particularly about toxic growth. Most animals, including humans, sustain parasites and bacteria along and within our bodies, some of which manage waste and keep us well. Parasites can be symbiotic and help each creature thrive. Here is an image of a mycelial mat. The largest organism in the world is in Eastern Oregon. It's 2,200 acres in size and 2,000 years old. The largest organism on Earth is a mycelial mat, fungal threadings that grow underground. These fungal threads are the Earth's natural internet. They channel information among plants. The web is so dense that there could be hundreds of kilometers of mycelium under a single footstep. Mycelium infects and colonizes the roots of all trees and plants. And where the fungal cells interact with the root cells, there's a trade-off of carbon for nutrients. These fungal maps also process waste. Mycelium is sentient. It knows you are there when you walk across the landscape. It leaps up in the aftermath of your footsteps, trying to grab the debris as a result of the pressure of your foot on the earth. One scientist said that the invention of the computer internet is an inevitable consequence of the previously proven biologically successful model. Mycelium connects different individuals in the forest, not only the same species, but among species. And it works to communicate between species and process waste in the forest. It is said that when a tree knows that it's going to die, it offers its remaining nutrients to the mycelium, who spread it out to feed all the other trees. This system has its own intelligence, and it's based on the idea of symbiosis, beings working together, communicating, supporting, and enriching each other. I remember learning about symbiosis in biology class in junior high. The example was of the bird that lived on the back of the rhinoceros and ate the bugs that landed on him. The bird got the bugs, and the rhinoceros got to be free of bugs. Two beings connected. But what a limited view of symbiosis. It's so powerful to consider symbiosis among a multitude of beings. Symbiosis as an interdependent web. So what is the wisdom that we can learn from this system? As individuals, we can reflect on cooperation rather than competition. We can understand how we fit into a system and to live into our place with humility. We can stop trying to control things and recognize that we are dependent. We each have a role in our community, and we each have gifts to offer. It is also worth considering that if something feels like a parasite, that something's trying to take something from you, it may actually have something to offer you as well, or something to teach you. This web of mycelia, this sentient interconnection of multiple beings, has much to teach us about how to live in cooperation. So, we've considered fractals, murmuration, mycelium. What is it that we can learn from these patterns of nature? I hope you feel in awe of these natural systems, Whatever wisdom nature has to offer us should be received with gratitude and humility. Despite the choices that humans have made about our relationship with the earth, we are not separate from nature. We feel these patterns of nature in our bodies. They resonate for us. They resonate in our brains and in our spirits. And they have wisdom to teach us. Our seventh principle of Unitarian Universalist is the respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Not a part as separated from, but a part as integrated into. But we are not in control of these systems. They existed before humans and will continue even if human beings cause ourselves to go extinct. These patterns and systems have their own power and their own authority that is greater than any one being. Some may call these interdependent systems God. Thank you. Blessed be, and amen.
Our closing words come from Reverend Norman Naylor of blessed memory. Our eyes and minds turn now toward the ordinary. Leaving this time made sacred by our presence, take with you at least some seed of understanding, hope, and courage, and drop it into the confusion of the world. Nourish the seed that it might grow as a tree of life, giving shelter to the weary and hope to the despairing. Be yourself a branch of the tree of life. Amen. You are invited to close our time together by singing the well. Newcomers are invited to stay here in the worship for a newcomer chat, and everyone is invited to our coffee hour.